a stay-at-home dad, watching Disney movies he never had. His daughter digs through all the VHS, crushing the classics in a princess dress. Informed like Scuttle, Kurt's got your ticket, making it real like Jiminy Cricket. Most are off the Captain Hook, but if the Tweedledum, he'll be taking more shots than Bambi's mom. Leaves him raised like Simba, or cracked like the beach dishes. He'll show you a whole new world, you won't need 3 wishes. Stay at home, Disney Dad.
Murder, She Purred, a Mrs. Murphy mystery. Ray Richmond from Variety magazine gave the film a very bad review, stating this installment of The Wonderful World of Disney, based on the Mrs. Murphy series of mystery novels penned by Rita Mae Brown, is pretty much as dumb as it gets, giving us a dog and cat who solve crimes. Mrs. Murphy is the cat, and starring a role for Ricki Lake that makes her lowbrow daytime yak fest seem like Frontline by comparison. Disney has been reduced to ripping off itself, or didn't anyone else see Homeward Bound or its sequel? It's a march through the wonderful world of Disney, made for TV VHS tapes. I know the whole point of this review segment is to jump into these things blind and react organically, but I had to know if this was just like one episode from an ongoing series or just what this is. And I still didn't get a clear answer from anything online. This looks to be just like a one-off, even though it's part of some series. Anyone? Were there more movies under this umbrella? I don't know. I can't find out that information. Let's begin the march. We press play. For Disney, this is immediately as Canadian as it can get. This intro is like every Canadian TV show in the 90s and 80s and probably 70s. This could be Beachcombers. This could be The Littlest Hobo. This could be Neon Rider. It all looked like this. It's an avalanche of clips and quick cuts to this music bed. Only this one's animals and Ricki Lake. At some point here I'll talk about Ricki Lake, but I can't stop now because we start hot. We have a dog looking at a drawing of a dog, and he wishes he was tall like the picture of the drawing of the dog. Ricki Lake is reading a book, and her cat's name is Mrs. Murphy. She's wise. She's a wise kitty. Okay, the animals talk to each other, but Ricki can't hear them. The animals see something happening at the neighboring property, so they get Ricki to let them outside so they can go see what's happening. Or sorry, this is a mystery. They can go investigate. They find someone in the supposed to be empty property about to light something on fire in the fireplace, but then another man emerges from the shadows and we see like his back, and he points a gun at this guy in a Disney movie. This guy's trying to burn stuff, and he's got a gun at his head now, and he's like, no, our arrangement is good. The animals get inside and cause a ruckus, and the men run away. This commotion alerted Ricki, who comes into the neighboring house. That's strange. No one should be here. She sees footprints in the dirt and is all, why would someone break in here and try to light the fire? Then she sees a second set of footprints, and we got ourselves a mystery. A Ricki Lake mystery. Okay, if you don't know who Ricki Lake is, I really don't either. Her career is kind of a mystery to me, to be honest. And this is just from like memory. I haven't Googled her, but she was like an actress, but basically famous for being a plus-size actress, which is whatever, that's fine. But then she became a Canadian talk show host, and somewhere there she lost a lot of weight, and that was her thing. And I don't know, she's like Canada famous, and I feel like I'm dragging Ricki Lake, but I'm not. I really have no positive or negatives to form an opinion of her one way or another. She was, see, in the 90s, I was in high school, and I loved like counterculture and pro wrestling and gave everyone the DX chop, and Ricki Lake would be what my mom would be watching when the principal would call after school, and then Bev would be extra upset and be like, the principal called again, Curtis, and I missed the 10 minutes of Ricki Lake where they had an expert on explaining the foolproof way of opening those grocery store vegetable bags. I can never get those gosh darn things open. That was Ricki Lake. That's what she brought to the table. Every day at 4 p.m., Monday to Friday. Anyway, Ricki goes to work the next day and brings her animals to work with her. She's like the first ever millennial here. Her gal pals come in to say hi. One owns the diner, and the other is a postmistress that works with Ricki, delivering the mail. See, she's not a postman. Oh no, this gal is a postmistress, which is about the hottest job title you can have for like a regular job. Ricki works at the post office in a sleepy little town. A man comes in and the animals recognize his boots. It's the boots that belong to the man whose back they saw the man with the gun from the shadows last night. One of the ladies walks right up to him dead in the eyes and says, "Oh boy, you're handsome." Right to his face. Oh, the 90s. They do introductions. He's new in town. The animals are like, "This is the guy that had the gun." And then we get Ben, who is the other guy, the guy trying to light the furnace. He's there. This other guy, this first guy's a doctor. His name is Dr. Blair. He was also Johnny Cage in the Mortal Kombat movie. Ricki's name is Harry in this movie, and it's been 9 months since she got divorced. Okay, I guess the dude just bought the property next door to her. It's called the Fox Den, and now he's there because he wants to legally change the name of the property, spitting on every small town value and tradition. This guy and his big city ways, am I right? She gets home and she sees him next door already. She takes him a lemonade. As Dr. Blair sharpens his axe, Harry Ricki Lake says, "You're grinding your axe the wrong way." Oof. It's getting a little steamy on Murder, She Purred, know what I mean? Her advice for country living? She tells him to get a cat. He says he doesn't like cats, and she says, "Well, I hope you like mice then." Fatality! Two men come into the diner, and this fidgety guy, Ben, drops a book of matches, and it's the same book of matches that was left at the Fox Den the other night. And Ricki's like, "Were you at the Fox Den a couple nights ago?" And he goes, "No, yes, I was trying to light the furnace for the new guy, and I couldn't do it." But Harry's all confused because it lit fine for her. Maybe you're just good with matches and not on coke, I don't know. We go back to the talking animals, and the cat dunks on a couple of German shepherds with bad, like, offensive German accents by today's standards. Okay, we get cameos from a bunch of these actors. I don't know any of their actual names, but I know they're, like, Canadian famous as well. I gotta Google them, okay? Ed Begley Jr. is from St. Elsewhere, and 6 Feet Under, nice. Eddie McClurg, who plays every teacher or mom in every movie, of course, Ferris Bueller's Day Off famous. Back to the mystery. The gals are gossiping about the two men in the diner, like Fidgety Ben and Dr. B. They're in there, then they start yelling at each other. Hear that? That's the plot thickening, people. It's the next day, and Harry Ricki Lake takes the new guy as her date to this barbecue thing. They're all fishing on a dock. Another couple shows up, and it's some, like, hot new vet, and his woman is, like, token hot girlfriend named Boom Boom. Her name is Boom Boom. I'm not sure what the joke here is, but she's got a large chest and she's an idiot. And 80s and 90s movies loved this character. One lady caught something big, but instead of pulling it out, it pulls her into the water. Harry jumps in the water to, like, save her. And there's a car in there. And Ben's body is in the car. And he's missing his arm. My poor, poor daughter. She has so many questions right now, and I'm like, let's just keep watching. It's a mystery. There's a wake now for Ben at his house, and Ricki Lake is making a list of suspects. Ben had so many enemies, it could have been anyone. Ricki sneaks into his room looking for clues. She finds an account statement, and Ben was just deposited $90,000 before the cops find her snooping around in this room. The cop is also like, this guy, MacGyver's pilot. She gets outside. Ricki finds a note on her car that says, "Leave it alone." The cop is snapping an elastic band on his wrist, and I feel like this is going to be an important detail later, like a tell, like the killer will be in the shadows and we'll hear a snapping sound, and we'll all know it was the cop. We'll see if my prediction comes true. It's such a random thing they're drawing attention to, right? She's chatting with the cops, and the other cop inadvertently says there's an extra pair of fingerprints on the steering wheel that they found, and they're getting checked. Dr. Blair is now sucking up to Ricki Lake. He invites her to a housewarming party that night, but it's just going to be him and her. She agrees because, I mean, why not? He probably won't kill her. She comes to serve him her pie, and the animals come and start knocking the boxes over. The cat says she wonders if the time the dog drank bleach caused him to be this way. Inside the box that the animals tipped over, Ricki finds a bunch of books about serial killers and a picture of his ex-lover. And sorry, I'm all for women's rights, and I will not hold them to traditional beauty standards ever, but girl, what is with your hair here? I'm sorry. Sure, hair could be sexy on girls, of course, 100%, but this is not that. What is happening? Over supper, they talk about Ben's accident. Dr. B says, sometimes you die in familiar places. This conversation is just getting steamy again. I don't know, he picks up a knife to cut his meat and the cat thinks he's about to gut Ricki Lake, so she attacks him, but I can't stop staring at this fridge for some reason. As they leave, the dog says, "I don't care who he killed, that was the best meatloaf I've ever had." Is that a funny line for a Disney movie? It's a Mrs. Murphy mystery, folks. Later that night, there's a storm and Ricki gets a flashlight and sees someone walking around outside in the dark. There's also a graveyard next door. I don't know how we haven't talked about that before. Some guy's running by in the dark now, and Ricki Lake goes to investigate. He drop kicks Ricki Lake when she tries to stop him. That was intense. And okay, I've heard of the drop kick Murphys, but never the drop kick Ricki. Shut up. Don't laugh at that. That sucked. That was a terrible joke. You're better than that. Don't laugh at that. The next day, she's talking to the cops. Dr. B shows back up. He's got a duster like in sunny Philly. Awesome. The dog is digging in the grave, and he digs up dead Ben's fake hand. I'm talking to my daughter again now about prosthetics. There's still something going on with this police chief snapping his elastic wristband. The animals call their friend the fox, and it just occurred to me that the animals in this like animal mystery movie are like the B, C, and D storylines here. We never even see them. It's like they wanted to make a murder mystery, but we're told to add some animals to make it more Disney friendly and like pass whatever the Disney test is that goes to air. Boom Boom stops by the post office and she tells Ricki, "If I were you, I'd be scared next to Dr. B." And Ricki says, "I'd be scared if I were you, Boom Boom."
Fatality. Fatality. Fatality.
Ah, you got her, Ricki. Boom Boom is, to be fair, just about the worst actress I've ever seen. That being said, I'm suddenly having a lot of fun with this movie. Ricki stops by the police station to bribe them with baking. They just straight up tell her they got the fingerprints off the car and it's from a guy who died 20 years ago in New York. She like faxes this information to herself when they're busy. I barely remember how a 90s fax machine works. So she faxed the fingerprint results to herself back at the post office. It's like the actors here were doing someone a favor, paying off some like DWI tickets to do this movie. One lady says, "This reminds her of that woman who cut up her husband and put him in the freezer." My daughter and I look at each other again for a second. Ricki says, "I dismember that." It's like they're doing high school theater now in this movie. Ricki and Blair get invited to a hunt party now. She invites Blair to stay and have coffee while she closes the post office and opens her doors in a gesture of small town hospitality. I think I was gonna say, come on. He says, "You don't think I killed Ben?" She says, "No, I just have some extra coffee." They go horseback riding and for no reason, Blair falls off and like lands on his head for no reason. He gets up and he's like, "I'm okay." That poor stunt double. That scene did not mean anything. It wasn't even funny. It was dangerous. And the next scene, he gets super dark and sternly tells Ricki to leave it alone, like the note. Now someone's breaking into the post office and the snooty cat goes to check it out. The gloved hand grabs Mrs. Murphy's, trying to stuff her in a sack like Santa would, but in reverse, like reverse Santa. The dog goes and starts barking. He kicks the dog. Horrible. The only thing this guy stole was the information about whose prints it was in the car in the face. The police question her and show her a newspaper headline where Dr. B supposedly killed his ex-girlfriend, but then a former mental patient of his confessed to the murder. The dog digs some more and finds a bullet and a tacky earring. Ricki Lake is wearing an earring now to a party to see if anyone reacts. Also wearing someone else's dirt earring is pretty gross. Dr. Blair shows up and doesn't react to the earring like everyone thought he would. The animals find newspaper clippings of an auto accident from years ago with the picture of the kid whose fingerprints were on the car. Oh, what is happening? Ricki's animal ruined the party. Her animals ruin the party, and the host kicks Ricki and that mangy mutt out. Later that night, the lights go out in Ricki's house. Someone's trying to break into her house in the dark. It turns out to just be the cops. They're just like, "Oh, hey, we want the bullet casing you found." It's the next day, and it's time for the hunt. It occurs to her that whomever is behind all of this was at the party and is probably here at the hunt today. They won't say fox hunt, but that's what this is. It's heavily implied, and they're chasing foxes. They just won't call it a fox hunt. Suddenly, Ed, the husband guy, comes out and he pulls a gun on them. This dolt is the bad guy. Fitz, that's his name, Fitz. Fitz is doing this because their friend Binky is coming to visit. What is happening? So this guy was actually Tommy. It was Fitz who died a long time ago in that car accident, and the other kid that he was with was going to inherit a bunch of money, so he pretended to be the other kid to get the inheritance. Okay, so a rich kid and a poor kid were in an auto accident in New York decades ago, and the rich kid died, so the poor kid pretended he was the rich kid when he was rescued, and he just somehow inherited all this money. That's the twist here. And that's who this Fitz guy is. Ben figured out it was Fitz that lived, and so he killed him. The hunting dogs run in and they knock him over. He drops his gun, and that's the end of that. Oh my God. Harry and Blair are a couple now. He's going to keep the name Fox stand for his place after all, and they make out in front of the animals. Credits roll. What did I just watch there? Holy... Did them wheels come off of that at the end? That was like... Oh my God. That was that wasn't even a proper mystery reveal. There were no clues. There were no clues that would lead up to that. That was like Friday the 13th Part 1 surprise ending. That was like what was that movie with that girl who like just pretending she was like schizophrenic at the end? That horror movie that started out so good. I need to lie down.
What do you think?
What we have is a concern about Curtis Anderson. His interviewing style is not the best. His personal appearance is not the best. I was wondering if the man has some kind of a hold over the channel that he's allowed to be employed for so long with the standards of journalism and personal appearance that he has. Thank you.